Good morning, Philadelphia. Thanks for joining us for another great show of Race on Main Street. You can visit us and check out all of our past episodes at raceonmain.com. We have a terrific guest today.
I just think it's funny that it's always a great show and a terrific guest. Can it be a terrific show and a great guest?
We have a terrific show with a great guest. You can see all of our terrific and great episodes at raceonmain.com. But before that, James Chan from Asia Marketing and Management is going to talk all about moving U.S. products to China.
Apparently there is something of a trade deficit, and James is working on fixing it.
Yes, and he's doing it one product at a time, but apparently there's a huge market for U.S. goods in China, so stay tuned. Good morning, Philadelphia, and welcome to another great show of Race on Main Street. We appreciate you joining us. And remember, you can always check out all of our past episodes and great content around the region at raceonmain.com. So don't be shy. Take a look. There's all of our old shows. There's lots of information about things going on around the area. So have at it. It should be a good afternoon of fun on the website. We have a terrific guest here today. Very, very, very interesting. So we're going to try to get to him as quickly as possible. James Chan from Asia Marketing and Management. He's going to talk all about great ways and the sort of way to move products, American products, into China. So we talk about trade deficits between the US and China and circumstance that surround that. Here's someone who's going to be talking about ways of moving our goods, 100% American-made goods, right onto the shelves of the marketplace in China. But before we get started with that, I'm going to introduce my co-host and brother and business partner, Stuart. It's another great week. It's beautiful in Philadelphia. We had a lot of rain the last few days, but
I experienced that rain firsthand. I was out watching field hockey all weekend. And shout out to the Horizon U16 Field Hockey Club. They came in second in their league and in the tournament. So what that meant is we got to stay until the absolute bitter end. Like tumbleweeds are blowing through, and
and there's 16
vultures are flying around, and
Right.
but hey, it was important, and trophies and medals were exchanged. So
yeah.
It was
so
a happy.
Kids had fun.
It was a happy weekend. Yes.
Yeah, all right.
It all went well.
That's good.
So.
Yeah, you know what? Look, you never remember pain. So after a few days, the pain of the rain and the agony
will subside,
of
but the trophy will still.
That's right. It'll still be hanging,
gleaming on the mantelpiece.
That's right.
Second place.
Second place.
Should say first loser.
Nah, come on. There's always.
They work very hard. They're a good bunch of girls.
Yeah, awesome. It sounds great. Well, I know we normally have our normal routine, but we have a great guest today.
Yeah, let's.
It's an interesting topic, so let's.
It is, particularly since we spent a significant portion of the morning laughing about, and again, we don't do politics, but I'm doing it again.
Right.
Donald Trump's statement the other day of that he's not afraid of a trade war with China. Trade war, schmade war, bring it on, kind of thing. So we're going to hear about getting the trade deficit a little bit more.
A more educated view as to how that.
We can only hope that will be the
works.
case. So our guest today is James Chan. As Scott indicated, his company is Asia Marketing and Management. Asia Marketing and Management advises U.S. companies on marketing American-made industrial and engineered products and professional services to China and to Asia. He is also the author of Spare Room Tycoon: Succeeding Independently, the 70 Lessons of Sane Self-Employment. Mr. Chan, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Stu.
Yeah.
It's good to be here.
Yeah, thanks. You're welcome. Thanks for joining us. We really appreciate it. So you have a fascinating career, 30 years of working with businesses. What get us up to speed, I guess, is go from day one to where you are now, if that's possible.
Well, day one, actually, I was born in China. I was born in 1949, and at a time when the Communist Party was winning all the way, and My parents had some money. They were not very rich, but anybody with any money at that time would be considered a bad element. And so our family, my parents had no choice but to quickly flee mainland China. I was born in Guangzhou. That was about, north of Hong Kong, 90 some miles. And so in less than a month after I was born, my mother practically grabbed me and fled to Hong Kong. So I grew up in Hong Kong. My first 20 years was spent in Hong Kong. I went to the University of Hong Kong. I got my bachelor's degree in Chinese cultural geography. And then I came to this country in 1971, and I've been here since then. I went to the University of Chicago because I loved examining, looking at China as if China were a person. In other words, instead of doing real geography, I was doing psychoanalysis on a country.
On the whole country?
On the whole country.
And that took more than 15 hours?
Oh, more than 15 hours. He's talking about my class at Penn,
yes.
my Penn's engineering
Yes.
class. Yeah, that's more. So when I was a teenager, I wanted to get a PhD because my thinking at that time was very Chinese, very traditional Chinese. We love education. I believe that having an education is a key to success. Whatever success means, I didn't know, but at least psychologically, it felt secure. So I studied very hard. But by the time I got my PhD, I discovered one thing about myself. I really wasn't a scholar that I thought I could be. Maybe because I saw real scholars. But there's also a kind of a self-awakening, self-understanding by the time I was 27 that I didn't have the patience to read book after book after book. I could, but only for a while. So I realized that I really like people. I want to talk to people. And therefore I switched from teaching at Boston University and then later at SUNY in Cortland. And so I joined a Fortune 500 company, Harcourt Brace Jovanovich, which is now Harcourt General. Publisher.
Textbooks.
So, textbooks and very high-level scientific, technical, medical, engineering monographs and journals. In other words, books or journals called mildew, blood, methods in entomology. This is really not something, your average Main Street people want to read. It's definitely not Danielle Steele. But so I was in charge of selling them, and I succeeded in marketing a lot of books and journals to China. That's how I learned my export experience. So again, because I know that this show is focusing on Main Street, on how the middle class and people who were not born with a silver spoon in their mouths could pull themselves by their own bootstraps. So in short, I am a believer of the Main Street self-help thing. And so I can later on talk about why I wrote Spare Room Tycoon, for that matter.
That's one of my questions.
And but you asked me about how I did it. I worked for a Fortune 500 company for 2 years, 81 to 83, and the company wanted to relocate to Orlando, Florida, and I didn't want to leave my friends and my personal support network in the Northeast, so I decided not to follow them. And it so happened around that time, I read a book in a bookstore right across the street from Harcourt, from the building where I work. And the title of the book is How to Be a Successful Independent Consultant.
Interesting.
And somehow it was like a light bulb, something came on, and I said, "Oh, I can do that."
Would you call that your aha moment?
My aha moment. It really was kind of close to that time. See, I lived in Queens. I mean, I got a good job, but I couldn't afford Manhattan property. So I lived in Astoria, and I had to take the double R train. The double R is no longer there, but it was a double R. And I read the Times every single day, and I remember one moment on the subway, reading the Times, getting squeezed. And then I read a very short article titled, "Consulting is a Viable Way of Making a Living." I said, well, seems to be exciting. I never knew that moment translated into a lifetime of just doing just that. In other words, I cooked up what I set out to do. And I'm still doing it.
That's wonderful.
Yeah, 30 years later, you're still doing it.
I'm still doing it. I'm
and
excited
enjoying
about it. I'm enjoying it, and thank God I have wonderful clients who are willing to engage my services. You can't. The clients are important, so I put them on first place.
Well,
that's right.
I suppose that's the best way to go about it.
And so let me jump in. So you have this consulting business where you're helping businesses take their products off the shelves here in the States or off the manufacturing floor here in the States into China. And you talk about this formula that you have, what you call the China formula, in order to be able to sort of like have the grit in order to be able to go through the process and persevere with it and be successful at it. So tell us a little bit about that if you could. I know it's like sort of like the heartbeat of what you do. I
know, without spending like 30 years explaining it, I could. But in a minute or two, essentially I want some kind of an easy to remember word, kind of a motivational message to get US manufacturers and service providers to not be afraid of selling to the Chinese. I understand that China is a difficult market. It's, people really know how to bargain and they know how to negotiate, and whatever you sell, someone is going to pirate it, whether it's a product or service. So it can be a nettlesome marketplace. There's no doubt about it. But nettlesome doesn't mean that it cannot be done. So I cooked up the word China, C-H-I-N-A, to kind of get to the heart of how to succeed. And the first letter C refers to the word confidence. See, a lot of companies that want to expand globally, they think, we'll just hire employees or hire agents and then we can break into that market. That may be the case, but the key for the C, confidence, is your first customer in any international market, not just China, but especially China, is the agent himself or herself. If you, as a manufacturer or service provider, even for your firm, if you want to sell your services to China, your very first customers to convince you have to pump confidence into the person helping you. It's a very simple concept. If your agent is not confident selling your service, selling your product, how can he or she convey the sense of security, quality, value to their customers? Makes some sense?
Yes.
Confidence of, you have to breathe confidence into your own agent. Then H for hunger. China is too big. You can't sell to everybody. In fact, it's almost impossible. So you want to sell to people who are hungry for your particular type of product, whether you are selling bearings or ice cream or designer furniture. And you don't sell to anybody on Main Street, China. You actually sell it on High Street, the high end, the very specific, the top of the heap. You have to start there. In a way, that's how Buddhism got transmitted into China. If you want to convert China with any religion, you get the emperor to believe in it first. And then the rest falls into place. So hunger is to make the most prestigious, most high-end, most value appreciative people in China, the minority of people, to get it. And once they get it, the rest will follow. That's the H, the hungry. And then C-H-I. I is an insider. I stands for insider. China is an opaque market. I'm not saying that America is totally transparent. I mean, I've lived here for 40 years. I mean, we have our ways of making things difficult. But on the other hand, China is just by definition difficult and non-transparent.
By definition?
By definition, we believe it, we accept it,
That's how it is.
It's like fish is not going to wonder, why am I in water? Right. You are not a bird, you must be in water. You accept it. So So everything on the table, what you see is never what you get. So you need insider, people who are in the know, people who are either in the industry, your agent, your customer, and people who are fond of you, they want to help you. Somehow they find you lovely, charming, they just
They
like
depend
to
on
be
you
with
for a
you.
living?
Want to, huh?
They depend on you for a living, maybe?
Not necessarily. This is the funny part. Because if you are able to charm people, to make them feel that you come as friends versus as enemies, or that you're not going there to outsmart them, you have something that they can benefit from. Believe it or not, there are good people in China
We're
who are
totally
willing
not
to tip
going
you
into the
off.
Chinese market.
Tip you off. They want to tip you off, and it's not because you're paying them. So I have people who have done this to me several times. And so the next word is no. N-O. N stands for no. You can't always say yes to your customers in China. In fact, if you have no courage, no ability, and at some point in time are able to stand firm on your own 2 feet and say, this is not what I'm going to do. I'm not going to sell you my company. I'm not going to give you my source codes. I'm not going to tell you the secrets of my trade. No matter what you do, and if you don't want to do business with me right now, that's fine. I'll wait 10 years, But the importance of saying no, and of course, when you export for American companies, it is very important that you abide by the Foreign Corrupt Practices Act. You cannot bribe because you go to jail. And so it's very important if people want you to do something cockamamie, illegal, you just have to say no. You can't be afraid of offending people. Finally, A. A stands for acceptance. I have a client that I've been working with year in, year out since 1984. So you're talking about 32 years. And we are selling our products not because we have the greatest technology, we do. Not because we invented whatever we did 100 years ago, we have. But that doesn't mean that our products have no competition. But what we have done over the past 32 years is to have enough customers that like our products, that our products get accepted. In other words, we finally have roots on Chinese soil.
Yeah, that's important, I would
So
imagine.
CHINA. The confidence of your agent is key. Focus on the top people in that market. Get your service or product accepted. Make sure that you never know how things work in China. You must find and cultivate and depend on the insiders. Number 4, keep your clothes on. Say no if they want you to be naked. You just have to say no. You cannot be naked, because I'm using metaphorically speaking. It's like a film. If you are a film, they say, hi, why don't you just hold up your Kodak? Then you're dead. So you have to learn how to say no and learn to comfortably say it. And then finally, you have to work with your customers, your contacts long enough that they finally accept you, much like going back to Buddhism. Buddhism started in India, never really prospered. And somehow, China took it. And it's been a religion for more than 2,000 years.
Sure.
So I hope I'm not boring people with my China formula.
I don't think so.
But it's 30-some years of trying to find out what are the so-called secrets. I hope somebody is listening.
Yeah,
So do we. Actually, so do we. Hope somebody's listening. Somebody, are you listening? Do you hear?
There's a few people listening.
Please.
And I'm assuming that
Write
they're-
in that you're listening. Let us know.
There's probably quite a few manufacturing groups. It's interesting,
Yep.
the items that you touch on, and that idea of confidence. Let's forget all the others before you get there.
Sure.
If you were to look at the geography of China, how large it is. You talk about being intimidating. Right. It's intimidating. Where do you start? That confidence to say to your board of directors, to the people you work with, hey, look, this is obviously a profitable market.
Right.
Are they buying our stuff? Can we be there? Can we make it work? That's a big step, I would think, for a lot of companies. What do you think it pushes people over the edge to either seek you out or decide that that's a market they want to jump into?
In my experience, companies don't export until they feel they have saturated the American market, that they have seen limits to their growth. And that's one factor. The other factor is companies on the US side must somehow feel hungry. If they are fat and happy, again, I'm using the word metaphorical.
He looks at me when he says
fat and happy. No, I mean, fat and happy is some Chinese
is good.
Love people who are fat and happy.
They would love me.
It's true. It's absolutely true. But that's a digression. You have to be hungry enough to really want to go overseas.
Right.
And so I would say that those are the two kinds, particularly small and mid-sized companies, the companies on Main Street, not the multinationals. Multinationals just have to do it because they're supposed to do anything.
Right, so this works there. So what are some of the, like, in terms of products, you mentioned a bunch of things.
Right.
Food items, clothing, I mean, I don't know if clothing
Literally, one can sell anything to the Chinese if you know how to do it. Anything, practically anything. But the entry period, if there's such a thing as an entry period, the gestation period, another metaphor, is going to be rather long. I remember meeting this very good client of mine for more than 3 decades, ongoing. I saw them earlier today. We're planning a trip to China. I met the vice president of sales and marketing, and I remember the first few sentences he said to me was, James, we have seen the limits to the American market. We must grow overseas in order to prosper, continue to prosper and to survive. So we understand it's very hard to break into the Chinese market, selling things, making money from the Chinese. And frankly, we're looking to do it for 15 years. Now, when he said 15 years, it doesn't mean we can stay here and do nothing and have no sales for 15 years. That's not what he meant. But he was essentially saying we're looking at it on a long-term basis. It's almost like investing in the stock market, like savings for life. And it did not take 15 years that long, but it did take 7 years for us to know that we got in, for us to begin to get 6-figure orders, and for us to begin to see this kind of linkage effects. Linkage meaning I have sold successfully to Scott, and now Stu from Scott knows that there's James Chan selling this particular industrial or engineer product. And so you want a piece of that too, because you don't want to be behind, because you are keeping up with the Joneses. The Chinese are very competitive. And in a way, it plays into the hands of the West. If you can get in, other people follow.
It's great. It's amazing.
Let's talk about that. I want to talk more about the long-term aspect.
That's what I was going to jump in on,
which seems to
well.
play into the acceptance.
Yep. You mean the final letter?
The final letter.
The most difficult one to learn. I'm glad you always bring up the most difficult question.
Well, it seems to me that with you're almost talking about a culture clash.
Oh yes.
In that, as Americans, we're all about get the product to market.
That's right.
And start making profits today.
Right.
And if I don't see profits in 6 months, then my shareholders are going to flee. My board of directors is going to crucify me, and I'm going to be out of business.
And that was going to be one of my questions I'm going to put on there.
Yeah.
Are a lot of the companies that are looking to move in publicly traded companies where they have to answer to the shareholders? I mean, we all have to answer to the shareholders, but it's different if it's like, let's say, a family-run business versus a publicly traded business.
They both go in, Scott, Stu, they both go in. This impatient money machines, the Fortune 500, go into China for one set of reasons. The prestige, the fact that they do have the technology, the fact that they do have the system, and so the China wants it. So even though things may not succeed, but they will keep going because they have deep pockets. They are able to hire 6-figure managers and technical professionals by the truckload. You know, they can afford it. The small and mid-sized companies go into China for a completely different set of reasons. The smaller and mid-sized companies generally are privately held companies, and the owner either is smitten with China, or the owner is, for whatever reason, fascinated or sees an economic opportunity. And so the owner, he or she, doesn't have to answer to 6 layers of bureaucrats.
Right.
I love to work with small-sized, privately held companies because I'm dealing with the emperors and the empresses. Mm-hmm. Otherwise, I'll just be, one of the cogs in a gigantic machinery. Yeah. And that's in a way why I decided to become independent. Because it's easier for me to be my own boss talking to other bosses.
It does make sense. It does make sense. Well, the one last question that I have, and then we have to start.
We're going to have this guy back because I can't believe the time. He's holding up 3 fingers.
I used to talk for 3 days. The American Management Association, I was the first person commissioned. 3 days.
To talk about this
because it's interesting.
Well, my question, or one of my final question is, and we'll try to keep this to maybe 30 seconds or less, because we have to wrap it up a little bit. Right. Is there, just like you had talked about, and you had touched on the whole idea of acceptance? Right. Do people go through the Chinese market and say, oh, that's made in China, that's made in the US, I'm going to back off from that because I want to support manufacturing or support business?
When you say people, what people? Americans?
No, the Chinese population. Yeah. So we're in a storefront, we're in a store, there's shelves filled with goods on it, and we look at a candy bar that's made in America, or a widget, some sort, made in America versus made in the US. Do people say, oh, well, wait, the list says that this is made in China, I'm going to gravitate towards that? You're shaking your head no.
No. I'm going to say something that hopefully you don't think I'm crazy when I answer. I don't mean to be crazy. I am not crazy. I know what I am talking about. Ironically, the Chinese love, admire, and want Western-made products.
I thought you were going to say that.
Ironically. Yeah. There's always this perception that, the Chinese want to be tribal, want to buy things that they make on their own. Maybe, if they really care about being cheap. But if they can afford it, that's why it's the H part, the hungry part. If they can afford it, they really want Western-made products. That's why China is such a controlled economy.
Yeah, it's interesting. I'm actually not surprised by that. It doesn't shock me at all, and I think that
James,
that's great.
At some point we have to have you have you back because there's so much more to talk about.
Just call.
we will.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. That was terrific.
So I'm going to feel like an idiot.
Well, let's wrap. We got to wrap it up. So
talking about the 10 richest women in the world or something like that. But
no, it's interesting.
They are now Chinese now. They're becoming.
Actually,
money is moving there.
Actually, I got off the Forbes website, and the wealthiest woman in the history of the world. Okay, so if you adjust the dollars for was Empress Wu of China in the year 700.
Wu Zetian,
22.7% of global wealth was under this woman's control.
Who was number one?
That who was number one? The Empress Wu of China.
This is historical. Do you know the meaning of her name? Wu Zetian. Zetian. I am heaven. I equate heaven. That's her name. Well, that's the meaning.
She has enough money to
afford it. A lot of money.
I'm paradise.
There she is. Well, there you go. Yeah. Get us out of here.
So, all right. And there was someone else on that list, Cleopatra.
Cleopatra was.
Well,
they equated her wealth. I thought what was interesting was they equated her wealth at the time to, in today's dollars, just about 100 billion.
No, lucky for her.
I hope they're not competing because there will be another war.
All right, everybody. Well, thank you all. Thanks, James. We appreciate it. Hey, everybody, we appreciate you tuning in and watching. Don't forget, you can check us out at raceonmain.com. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you all out on Main Street real soon. Thanks.